Doug Kezarian here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He hosts the excuse me. He hosts the Beyond the Bets podcast at ESPN.com and will give us a little bit more insight on how LeBron's free agency affects the odds for next season, as now all of a sudden, Doug, the Sixers have moved back up the LeBron list. It keeps changing almost daily here. Why do you think it keeps changing by the day? Is that just where the money's landing?
Say that again. I'm sorry, you cut out.
Is that why does the odds keep changing so frequently? Is that just kind of where the money is coming in right now?
So it's twofold. Sometimes there's information that changes the odds, and then sometimes it's just handle, which is total money bet, and that adjusts the liability of the sports book. So it could be someone without any knowledge, like a Floyd Mayweather making a big bet, or it could be a guy who they trust making a bet and they want to move some positioning. But if they move one number, they usually offset that move of other numbers. But the thing is, the last thing, it's the old cliche, fool me once, shame on you. Back in 2010, they got caught handing out 30 to 40 to 1 odds on the Heat before free agency. Same thing with the Cavs in 2014. So odds makers are not going to make the same mistake again that they did in those two LeBron free agencies.
Right. So Vegas is learning from their past two decision, or LeBron's past two decisions. They are learning not to give any team that has any connection with him some astronomical odds.
Correct. So you have teams like the 76ers, which have currently the third lowest odds to win it all at 5 to 1. Now you're thinking, well, this roster could even get out of the second round and the Celtics are going to get healthy, but it's the potential of LeBron. Now, if the Sixers do not get LeBron, they'll go up to about 14 to 1. The Lakers opened at 20 to 1, bet down to 10 to 1. Think about this. This Lakers team that didn't even sniff a playoff race, down to 10 to 1 because of the free agency and the potential of having two max guys like Paul George and LeBron.
So what if LeBron were to elect to stay in Cleveland? How would that impact the odds?
So right now the Cavaliers are 50 to 1, which I think is pretty crazy, all things considered, because the Cavaliers do have the number 8 overall pick, could easily flip Kevin Love as well and get another star, maybe Paul George or Kawhi Leonard with LeBron. Now, they have the oldest roster, I believe, the oldest playoff roster, horrible defense, obviously, but 50 to 1 with the chance of having LeBron is still 50 to 1, especially given his domination in the Eastern Conference over the years. But the odds makers clearly think he's got one foot out the door, given his tenuous relationship with Dan Gilbert. Now, if he did choose the Cavaliers, I'm told it would go down to 12 to 1.
Very interesting. Doug Kezarian is with us here. Right now, the odds are new, updated about an hour ago on which team LeBron will play for next season. The Lakers at the top of that list, followed by the Sixers, and then the Rockets, followed by the Cavaliers. So right now, you've got the Lakers as the leaders in the clubhouse and the Sixers at number 2, and for him to stay in Cleveland is number 4. Are you surprised, though, that the Lakers have moved kind of – because about a week ago, they were about in the 4th or 5th option.
Well, I think there's reports out there that he's remodeling his home and stuff like that, and obviously the Hollywood factor. Now, let me just backtrack a little bit. The odds you just mentioned are actual, like, what team will LeBron choose in free agency?
Correct.
That's a bet you make offshore. In the states, in Nevada, and then soon to be New Jersey and Delaware, you can't make that bet. That's a decision bet and not an outcome. So what we were just talking about previously is championship odds. So it's a way that LeBron's free agency can impact the odds, but it's not a direct bet on what team he will play for. So to your point, the odds are offered on a proposition bet offshore, which has looser parameters of what bets they can offer. They can offer silly stuff like the next coach to be fired, the next, like, which remember there was last week a story of which athlete's going to be caught with a fake burner account. Like you can have some fun with it. Lower limits, like $50 max bet, so people can have some fun. But in Nevada and in New Jersey and Delaware and other states, they're going to keep it pretty straightforward.
Doug Kezarian on with us. Now, Doug, last time you were on with us, where do things stand with New Jersey? Because the last time you were on and we were talking about sports betting in New Jersey, you had mentioned June 7th as maybe the date, but that day is come and gone.
Right. So the state legislature met on June 7th, and it was up to the governor to sign a bill after that in order to proceed accordingly in that regard. Now, the question is, when will the bill get signed and all that jazz? And that's what everyone's wondering. And it's you want to cooperate with the leagues. That's another concern. So it's a wait and see mode, but it's certainly sooner than later. So New Jersey passed the bill legalizing sports betting, but they're still waiting on the official green light for all the horse tracks in Atlantic City.
We did notice that the Delaware governor placed his first bet on the Phillies, and he won.
Right. He took an underdog. Good for him. And I believe that was the jinx, given what's happened since, and Arrieta all upset and everything. So maybe there's a curse out there.
Doug Kezarian is with us. He hosts the Beyond the Bets podcast at ESPN.com, which obviously everybody's looking at this LeBron stuff and about where he'll land and what the odds for next year is. Do you anticipate that any team, Doug, will change the odds to put the Warriors as not the favorite?
No, absolutely not. The sports books are heavy on, strong on the Warriors. They're the favorite. They might even be less than even money, depending on where LeBron goes. Now, if he chooses the Rockets, maybe the Rockets become favorites, but probably not. The Warriors would be the favorites no matter what. And let me rephrase that. The Warriors are going to be favorites no matter what. Where LeBron goes dictates whether they are even less than even money. If they go to the West, they won't be even money. But if he stays in the East, they'll likely be less than even money.
Have you ever seen, the last time this happened, did it fluctuate as much depending on where LeBron ended up, or that again goes back to them learning their lesson that, hey, there's 5 or 6 teams potentially involved, so we got to tweak all of their odds?
Yeah, I mean, they're being careful. So it's about 6 teams or so that's impacted. But it's just 2 separate markets. One market is full of unknowns, and then the other market is going to be after free agency, where they know the players end up. It's like betting a game line and then betting a second half line. That's all it is. You'll have more data points after July 5th or so, and that's all it is.
Now, the sportsbook manager said that they expect the odds to look much different within 6 weeks when LeBron James has to make his decision, which is June 29th? He has to opt out in or out of that contract?
Well, June 29th, he can opt out. That's his deadline. But then which team he chooses,
correct?
And he can always go back to Cleveland. So that's the other variable. He can re-sign with Cleveland. He just will do it on a different contract than the one he's opting out from. So July 1st is NBA free agency, and that's where we go.
All right, you got the Warriors, the Rockets, the Sixers, about 3.5 to 1. The Celtics 6 to 1. The Lakers 16 to 1. Cavs 25 to 1. Spurs 25 to 1. Heat 40 to 1. Which one of those is the best bang for their buck?
Well, I still think the Cavs. Right now, the Westgate's offering them at 50 to 1. Kobe Altman can make some, can move some things around. You never know. In terms of value, I'd say the Cavs at 50 to 1. Now, I don't think he's coming back, though, but when you throw in the 50 to 1 component, I would think that's worth the biggest flyer because all the other odds are adjusted so much.
Should be just unbelievable to see how this all lays out. I mean, this has been, pumped up for even when the playoffs began about where he's going to go next and that everybody thinks that he could be out of there. What a fascinating time in sports. Doug Kezarian, ESPN anchor, co-host of the Beyond the Bets podcast at ESPN.com, and he joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Doug, great stuff, man. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.